Wow, what a freaky picture. Alrighty, so this is just a quick try to explain the difficulties in what so basically what I say is when women are wearing spandex or things like that, when women are dressing in a way to just attract, that's sort of more about their body, and so I'm just trying to say why that's a problem or why that's a challenge to guys is, one, the woman is saying, proposing to the man, look at this, look at me, but look at my body, and then I guess be attracted to me. But what they're really proposing is be attracted to this body part that I'm showing you, and isn't that appealing? When, isn't this a pleasurable consideration? But the problem is, the initial thing is like you're really just saying, look at this body part. And so what you're proposing to the guy is that I want you to be about this body part, that I want you to be for this or be considering this, and this is what I want you to be focusing on. And the problem is that in every action you're saying something that ought to be, and so you're proposing a state of existence or something that you're acting for, which you're saying, well, this is a good and this is what I think ought to exist. And if you're proposing to the guy that he be about really just this body part or this pleasure or this sort of thing, the problem is that's unless that's taken up in love, and ends with the person rather than just getting stuck on the body part, a person to be about a body part is a reduction of the person, because what they're then saying is that what ought to exist is this thing or this pleasure or this way of being about this thing or this pleasure. And it isn't enough. It stops the person. It's less than the person, because the true structure and height of what the person is about loving the other person, about being the spirit of being love, and that they're giving this union, this way of being love together, as the thing that ought to exist. And that then is giving a person, in a sense, to exist. You're saying what ought to exist is this love, this way of being love, and that incorporates the full range of human being and human personhood. And that sort of thing is fulfilled in the Holy Spirit, who can unite those two and be the answer to their exclamation of what ought to exist, because the Holy Spirit is the love of the Father and the Son, and so we can take up the love of the man and the woman and realize that as well. It's in the mode of what is the truth of love. But if you're just going after the body part sort of thing, then you're saying, well, what the person should be about is this thing or this pleasure or this that, and it's a reduction of the person. It's not declaring that what ought to exist is the person or the voice or the gift or the full range of human personhood. It's saying reduce it down to you're being about pleasure or sensuality or a particular thing. And so that's a grievous wrong to declare that this is what ought to exist, because it's a reduction of what the person is. It's less than what the person is, and it's declaring that what should exist is less than what the person is. So if that's the case, then you would come to basically death or non-existence, in the grandest scheme, because you're saying everything came from God, who's a person, and God is giving this all to exist so that there can be love, that there can be unity in the love that is the kind of love that is in the Holy Spirit and in the Trinity. And if you're arguing that what should be is this reduction of being down to just the spirit of sensuality, well, that doesn't give, that doesn't have thought, that doesn't have self-disclosure, that doesn't have self-possession or whatever. That just is pleasure. You're kind of just saying, be like a slug that goes after what feels good, or a snail or something like that. That would if God was to take up that kind of spirituality, we would stop existing, because God would be like, well, it's no longer the manifestation of all this goodness and love, it's just whatever feels good. And that's not light emanating, that's not the light of gift emanating out of God, that's just consume what feels good. And so, then you're getting into this black hole sort of a being, because you're always just consuming in order to have pleasure. Well, that's the greatest, extraction or abstraction of that concept that I'm talking about, but that's where it goes. And so I know it's a far reach, but if you follow the line, that's what happens when women per se, wearing the spandex stuff that shows everything they got, and they're saying, I think you should be about this. Aren't I appealing? Don't you like my curves or whatever? Well, sure, but I mean, I don't want to be reigned by that stuff. I don't want to be ruled by that. I don't want to be about just pleasure. I want to be about gift and love and giving of myself and sharing the other person. And so if women understood that this is what they're proposing to the man, it's really a damage to the man that they're proposing. And why would they be doing this to the man? Why would they be proposing that the person they want to attract be about the body part, which they would find, in a sense, ultimately disgusting? Because they were like, you're about this thing, this part of me, that's not really all of me, that's not my true beauty and essence. And so it's an assault on the man, even the man they would propose to love, to be proposing this attraction to the body part. So rather, why not dress in a way that honors God and honors your dignity without sacrificing beauty or elegance or spunkiness or all these other good qualities, but that just doesn't draw and drive everything to the body part and sensuality and consideration of such. So that would be a much better way to go if women could understand that what they really want to be drawing attention to is their dignity and their true essence, as almost like a royalness of their personhood, that they are one to be beheld and loved and cared for, rather than just ravenously attractive of the other person. If that doesn't come out right, but anyway, so that's the argument. Don't drive the person down to be a reduction of himself or to be about being a body part. Drive them to the dignity and the sharing of the person, and dress in such a way that comes through without sacrificing any femininity or anything like that. So anyway, that's my recommendation.